Buff Allies and the Gender Studies program promote a more inclusive culture on the WT campus and encourage discussion of how gender impacts the way people are treated. However, neither of these programs have been around for long. It took collaboration between both students and faculty to bring them to life. Dr. Alice MillerMacPhee attended West Texas A&M University to pursue her master's in psychology and graduated in 2014. Her desire to see more gender-inclusive programs on campus is what instigated the formation of both Buff Allies and the WT Gender Studies program.
When I was in the psychology program, there was not an emphasis or really even an inclusion of working with LGBTQ people. And the history of psychology is pretty damaging for queer people. And so I sort of felt like it was my responsibility and also my passion to educate myself and then try to help educate my fellow grad students. I decided I wanted to join an LGBTQ group on campus. And I went to the Student Success Center and I said, hey, I want to join this group, but I don't see one. How do I even start one? And they sent a college-wide email out to the Humanities and Liberal Arts College and then Education and Social Sciences. And very, very fortunately for me, Dr. Drumheller got the email and she emailed me back, and I basically had a meeting with her and one other student, and we just figured out how do we get this student organization on campus. I think a lot of students, myself included, were looking for maybe some mentorship or just some kind of support from faculty on campus. And so Buff Allies is really a faculty and staff organization. But for me, it's where I found my home on campus. There's one faculty member on campus that when Buff Allies was just kind of getting started, before I had gotten connected with Dr. Drumheller, it was a different faculty member in a different college. And for some reason, I had the impression that this faculty member would be friendly or welcoming about the conversation about starting a student group on campus. And this faculty member was very curt in their response and basically made it very clear to me that there was no interest in that conversation. And so that was disheartening and I think kind of a reality check for me. But I was pleasantly surprised by the number of faculty that expressed interest in the original training.
Dr. Kristina Drumheller, professor and department head of communication, was one of the early supporters of Buff Allies.
I think it has given spaces for students to have a voice that they might not have felt like they had before. As an example, when we first were starting Safe Zone training, I did not know of any trans students, non-binary students on campus. I'm sure they were here, but I think they were even quieter, and now they're more vocal, they have a space, they have a voice, and they know that they've got faculty who, if they're having any challenges, that there's somebody they can go to.
Dr. Drumheller was also among the faculty who put together the logistics of starting a gender studies program at WT.
So Dr. Anand Kamisong, who was in political science at the time, he's no longer at WT, had done 2 different semesters. He had taught LGBTQIA politics and to a full class. And so that kind of signaled to us that maybe this was the time that a gender studies certificate would work. And we chose certificate because WT doesn't require minors. It's a little easier to put a certificate forward. We compiled a name of every person we could think of on this campus who taught some form of either gender studies related courses or courses that had a gender studies component. And I want to say we probably had 15 to 20 professors in the room. And we just talked about what should the certificate program look like, and came to an agreement of calling it, at the time, I think, we did go back and forth. Should it be women's studies? Should it be gender studies? And so we kind of landed on this gender studies title. And said, hey, Dr. Stuntz, would you teach the first gender studies class? So, because when you go through curriculum and you say we want to add this new element, we also need to put a syllabi together, like what would these classes probably look like? And so she agreed, and she put the materials together for the curriculum cycle so we could get it added. And we said with the certificate, so it's a 15-hour certificate. They take the intro to gender studies and they do a capstone, and the other 9 hours can come from anything that's on this campus, pretty much. So we compile the list of everything on this campus and we send it through curriculum. And even though we couldn't say, we know this is all the classes, it went through. We didn't have any questions or problems, so we were very excited about the receptivity of this campus to us doing a gender studies certificate.
Dr. Jean Stuntz, Regents Professor of History, was also among the early faculty supporters of both Buff Allies and the Gender Studies program. Dr. Stuntz taught the first gender studies course at WT.
A lot of us, and we didn't realize this until we started putting together the courses, a lot of us have had gender type training. A lot of the English professors study gender and literature. We found out there's people in the education and social sciences who do gender. In business, even there's gender aspects to things, to business. So in just about every college, there's at least one or two faculty who do gender. And so we were able to put together a big group of potential faculty members who could mentor students.
I think that diversity and equity, inclusion is a big thing in workplaces today. And the more you know and understand going into those spaces, the more you can do things that are real related to DEI. So it's not just about training and buzzwords. It's about, I'm going to pay attention to whether or not women are actually getting to speak up in boardrooms, whether their ideas are being talked over, whether they are getting promoted when they are the ones who should be promoted in a particular space, right? And I think vice versa, I don't want to just speak about women. I think it's important for us to understand men's roles as well. We talk about things like sexual harassment and bullying because it's predominantly happening to women. It's often men doing it to women, but we don't want to lose sight of the fact that men are also sexually harassed. They are bullied in the workplace. They are overlooked. And then when you add intersectional, minorities, disability, all these factors that come. So gender studies is one component that I hope gets students really interested in. Hey, there are a lot of people who are not treated as they should in the workplace. A lot of things that we overlook in the workplace, and that's it. Hopefully, we've sparked their interest because we've talked to them about inequity when you get into those gender studies programs.
For the gender studies program, I hope it keeps going and going strong. Dr. Von Lindel is doing a great job as director now, and I wish everybody knew more about gender because that helps them understand more about how we live, right? We as a society, why do we do the things we do? And gender studies really helps you understand that.
For the Prairie News, I'm Hannah Valencia.